button once it's green. It's on.
Post-Roe America.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Friday morning convocation. Today, our special guest and speaker is Lauren Muzyka, who is the founder, president, and CEO of Sidewalk Advocates for Life, the nation's largest sidewalk outreach program. Her background, she's a licensed attorney, and she has over 20 years of Sidewalk outreach experience, including participating in the very first 40 Days for Life campaign, and later serving as 40 Days for Life's campaign strategist. So she has a lot of pro-life experience, and it is her greatest passion, and we are very lucky to have her speak for us. So please help me welcome Lauren Muzyka.
All right. Well, where I come from, this is how we start. Repeat after me. Howdy. Do you guys say howdy in North Dakota? Okay, you guys are like, no, we don't. I remember getting off the plane in Bismarck. Never been to North Dakota before. I'm so excited. I had 6 states left to check off my list that I hadn't been to. North Dakota was on my list. And I remember getting off the plane and I was like, oh my gosh, they're playing country music. I feel so at home right now, and of course last night at the Late Show, boy, that band was awesome. I don't know if anybody here is from the band, but thank you. Real quick before I get rolling, I just kind of want to recognize anybody from the community who's part of the pro-life movement here. So I know these beautiful ladies from North Dakota Right to Life are with us this morning. So thank you for what you do. Is there anybody else from the community involved in the pro-life movement? I would love for you to take a Okay, yes. Can you introduce yourself real quick?
I'm Crystal Schroeds. I'm on the board of directors for North Dakota Right to Life.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mark Coggins, pro-life camping.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you for being with us. And of course, all of you wonderful students, thank you for taking time to come listen to me. Hopefully I don't disappoint this morning. So, all right. Well, the Pro-Life Club here on campus asked me to cover the post-Roe landscape. So as you all know, we had a seismic shift on so-called abortion rights, thanks be to God, a few years ago. Roe versus Wade and Doe v. Bolton, the companion cases that imposed abortion on demand on all 50 states for nearly 50 years, those have been thrown into the ash heap of history. Praise God, right? But now we went from one general battle to 50 individual battles, right? And hopefully by the end of this, what I especially hope you take away is the importance of still being we need to be incredible witnesses in our pro-life states to keep our states that are pro-life, abortion restricted, right? I think you're really going to see the need for us to keep up the battle, even though it'd be tempting to say, oh, our work is done. But we know that when Roe was overturned, it didn't mean that unexpected pregnancy ended. We have friends and family and neighbors who are still going to need to hear the good news of life-affirming options and resources and support. I am in a very pro-life state. In the great state of Texas, we protect life at conception. And so I'm right with you in this battle, as far as where we are in the journey. Real quick, that was an incredible introduction. Just so you all know, Sidewalk Advocates for Life, we're the nation's largest peaceful sidewalk counseling program. About 230 teams across the United States, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Colombia, and in short, I'm an attorney that followed Jesus to the sidewalk. I always did sidewalk counseling on the side. I thought I was actually going to be a pro-life litigator or lobbyist, and then it's kind of a long story, everything from reading a book, it was a woman who spent a summer with Mother Teresa and serving the poor and the destitute in the streets of Calcutta. I said, boy, how am I going to show such radical love for Jesus? Nobody's dying in the streets of Dallas, Texas, right? And then it hit me that they may not be dying in the streets, but they are dying in these buildings behind, whitewashed walls and pretty faces and Planned Parenthood facilities, right? And I thought to myself, I can show my radical love for Jesus by going to these places and being his hands and feet. So that's a really long story short, but I jumped into grassroots pro-life work, much to my husband's chagrin, because it doesn't pay a whole lot. Being an attorney pays a lot more, but I'm so grateful that, we did this together and we said yes, and it's been an adventure that I could never explain. So we're about 12 years old now, and continuing to grow, and our prerogative is to get in front of every uncovered abortion and abortion referral facility in America, and also to look at creatively in this post-Roe landscape, as you'll see, right? Because now we've got mail-order abortion-causing drugs coming across state borders in every state, illegally in some cases, right? We have to be witnesses on campus. We've got to be, in the churches. We've got to have trained people. mean, in post-Roe America, you and I are sidewalk advocates, whether we go to an abortion facility or not. And so again, when you get to the end of this presentation, really two things, right? How do we keep North Dakota pro-life? Of course, you've got incredible representatives here that are leading the charge. Please get behind them. And, you know, the second thing would be, how am I a witness for life? Do I have at the ready life-affirming information if a classmate came to me and said, I'm pregnant and I don't know what to do, right? So anyways, we're going to take this journey together. So here we go. Okay, we can't solve a problem if we don't know what it is, right? So just prior to Roe being overturned, there were about 777 abortion facilities. I never forgot about that because of the number 777. I felt like it was a wink towards ultimate victory, which we know our Lord will have, right? But there's about 765 now. And one thing to take note of is that quite often in most pro-life states or abortion-restricted states, there are these things that we call abortion referral centers. Most of the time, they are Planned Parenthood family planning centers, right? That do exist also in pro-abortion states, but they're kind of like heads of the dragon that are referring women across state lines or getting chemical abortion into their hands, right? So usually in the first trimester, women who are seeking abortion will be given two choices: surgical abortion or chemical abortion, which is now the lion's share of abortion. We'll talk more about that here in a second. But what's interesting is, even though I believe absolutely, praise God, it was the right thing to do to overturn Roe, we are seeing abortion numbers go up. And I'm going to share with you why I think that is. I do have a prediction, this is my own personal prediction, that they'll start going down again, but it's also incumbent upon us to be at the ready with resources to help those numbers, right? So we're talking about over 98,000 abortions every month. Absolutely unbelievable. Lord have mercy, right? So this is what we're seeing. Now, I believe that the reason that the abortion numbers went up in 2020 was the pandemic, right? And what did they do? They told women, hurry up and get in here and get your abortion because everything's going to go on lockdown, quarantine, right? It's really interesting because everybody was doing the 6 feet of spacing, right? Social distancing. But if you went to an abortion facility, they were crowded in there like sardines. That's what the Sidewalk advocates told us. Again, double standard a lot of times for abortion. So we've actually seen the numbers go back up over 1 million, even though even during the Obama administration, we hit the lowest number of abortions. I mean, it was 50% of what it used to be in the peak in the early 90s. So the pro-life movement had made great strides, but of course, we're kind of in a different landscape here, right? And nationwide, if you are driving maybe on a major highway to an abortion destination, or what some states, you know, we've termed abortion tourist states, these are some of the ads that you might see coming into California or Illinois. Illinois is surrounded by pro-life states. It's a huge abortion destination, and quite often now, some of these little border towns have been turned into abortion tourist areas, right? So, I mean, again, the audacity of, look at that one in the middle. Welcome to California, where abortion is safe and legal. We're so proud of this, right? It's like, goodness gracious. It's like, it's not a dinosaur museum anymore. It's like, come get your free abortion over here. Absolutely unbelievable. We've got these abortion funds that are fully funding women's abortions across state lines. So one of the women that we just helped in Texas, it's a mom named Maria. She found out, it took her about 5 months to figure out she was pregnant, 40 years old, surprise pregnancy, right? Her cycle was irregular, so she had no idea that she was pregnant for a while. And she called Planned Parenthood at 9 in the morning. By 3 p.m., she had a fully funded abortion to Kansas. Fully funded abortion to Kansas. I mean, they had everything set up. She has, you know, some people have Venmo or Zelle. They established a Zelle connection. They said, we're going to dump this much money into your account before you go, you know, give you this much money on your way back. We've got, you know, gas covered for you. We've got the hotel covered for you. And this is, you know, a woman who's low income in Texas, never been in a fancy hotel. She said she got there to Kansas and she met women in the waiting room, 16 years old, 15 years old. And some of them said, this is my 3rd or 4th abortion. And if you play your cards right, you could actually make money off of the abortion. That's how lucrative some of these abortion funds are. And I shared last night, if you were at the Late Show last night, that when Maria had that fully funded abortion to Kansas, what was absolutely unbelievable was just seeing the system and the coverage, and they gave her like a counselor to, journey with her, right? This is a really well-formed system. The one abortion fund that she worked with was called the Bridget Alliance, actually named after a Catholic saint, Saint Bridget of Ireland, if you can believe that. And it was so messed up how they got there. That's, again, a whole other presentation. But so anyways, we were able to intercept her. She went to Kansas. She was too far along. The law saved her son's life, and the abortion facility actually obeyed the law. Then she got a fully funded abortion to Washington, D.C., and by God's grace, we were able to intercept her and, invite her to consider a new decision and support her and be there with her. And her son, Jesus, was born here in June. Thanks be to God. And actually, it's amazing because she named him Jesus because of what our Lord had done in interceding, right? So, and then here's a little bit more of the landscape. So, a lot of times in the political world, we tend to think of, blue is pro-abortion and red is pro-life generally, right? For our purposes, we used our branding colors here at Sidewalk Advocates for Life. So the blue, the way to think of this is the deeper the blue, the greater the peace in the womb, right? The deeper the blue, the greater the peace. Yellow is like flashing warning. These are states that allow abortion, and quite often abortion until the point of birth, if you can believe that. That is illegal here in the United States of America. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have a clinic that will do it, but there are certain places in the country that will go full term. Elective abortion for any reason. And again, any reason is a bad reason, but the audacity of that, right? And then green is kind of somewhere in the mushy middle, even some of the light blue. Right, maybe they allow abortion to a point. And then the red arrows are where people are going from pro-life states into pro-abortion states. So for example, North Dakota, most people are going to Montana or Minnesota. It's Texas, where I'm from. They usually go to New Mexico, Colorado, or Kansas. And again, quite often, these are fully funded abortions across state lines. I met a woman on the sidewalk in Boulder, Colorado, who had been bused from Houston, Texas, where I have family. And I was able to tell her, hey, you know what? I'm from Houston. I live in Dallas now, but I'm from Houston. What do you need? I'm there for you, right? 15-hour bus ride. They gave her the first pill of the 2-pill chemical abortion regimen, gave her the second pill to expel the pregnancy. That's what the second pill does. She was bleeding at the hotel, and they put her back on a bus to Texas. And then they wouldn't pay for her pain medication. That's where the funding cut off, right? Absolutely sick. So, okay. This is my signal now to play a video. Let me see if I can do this. I might need help. I can be a little... Oh, nope. I didn't do that right. I might need Emily. Do you guys mind helping me real quick? Do I shrink it?
Here.
Okay.
Just,
I'm supposed to. That's right. I didn't follow directions.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Okay. No,
Okay.
If you need
Go
help
down
getting
here. Okay. So this is not too long after Roe was overturned. I said to myself, I need to see what abortion traffic looks like. As yes, I lead a national, now international organization, work from Texas, but I'm also a Texan, right? And I wanted to see what it was like on the ground in an abortion destination state. So here we go.
Is a rapidly changing landscape. Since the Supreme Court handed down the Dobbs decision in June, overturning the infamous Roe v. Wade abortion case, the battle lines have been drawn.
Tonight, the landmark ruling.
The Supreme Court has overturned Roe v. Wade.
It is a tectonic shift on abortion rights.
Some states have taken immediate steps to protect innocent human life, while other locations have literally dubbed themselves abortion destination or even abortion tourist states and cities. One of the abortion destination states is New Mexico, which allows abortion unrestricted until the point of birth. In fact, abortion businesses all over the South are moving here, and the number of abortion facilities may soon triple or even quadruple in the state. This is the new ground zero and biggest question in the post-Roe abortion battle. How do we reach mothers in crisis before they're tempted to cross state lines? And then, how do we best serve them and help them to choose life for their preborn children once they've traveled hundreds of miles to the next nearest abortion facility? I knew that if we wanted to help save lives and end abortion in this new era, I had a journey there to understand what this all looked like, what we were up against, and learn how we can gradually turn hearts and minds and eventually see an abortion destination state like New Mexico defend life. I started my journey in borderland visiting Santa Teresa and Las Cruces.
We're right on the state line, literally between the two most extreme states on the life issue. Texas, where life is now protected from the moment it comes into existence, and New Mexico, where it's just kind of a free-for-all. And so abortionists are able to do late-term abortions even up through the third trimester until the moment of delivery.
Our governor talks about what she considers women's health care rights, but doesn't concern her at all that women are being sent to birth stillborn children in hotels.
So many women coming to an abortion center have a fake background, and they're praying for some kind of sign if they should go through with this or not. And so often they'll cite that they just saw someone out praying on their knees on their sidewalk, and that was their sign. And so we need that there. We got to a point where we were seeing 4 or 5 turnaways a day, just constantly caravanning with women to bring them over to our local Guiding Star Women's Center. Now there's a different level of desperation. The women that we're seeing have invested so much into, oftentimes they have gotten a plane ticket and they've flown across the state. They've gotten hotel rooms, they've rented rental cars. And by the time they show up at the abortion facility, they'll say, I gotta catch a plane back home in a few hours.
Now the new location of the Pink House, the abortion facility, Jackson's Women's Health Organization, that was at issue in the Dobbs case. So we're here, they just moved here again to Las Cruces, New Mexico, and again, we're at ground zero in pro-abortion, post-Roe America.
They are being referred from centers to here. They're going to their local centers and saying, where do we go? The people in Houston I've seen referred to Planned Parenthood in Las Cruces. The people in Dallas typically get referred here. I see a ton of women from Midland and Odessa here.
By the time they get here, they're even more committed to obtaining this abortion because the abortion facilities, the referral centers in Texas have already given them a gift card.
They're being paid for by abortion funds like the NAF Hotline or the NAREL Action Fund or the West Fund or the Mariposa Fund. These organizations are paying the doctors for the abortions in about 50% of the cases.
So that by the time they come to New Mexico and they encounter a sidewalk advocate, or somehow they come to a pregnancy center like ourselves, they almost feel more pressure to obtain the abortion because it's already been paid for.
We started to see a significant increase of women traveling from across the state of Texas, 16 hours across the state. We had a line of women literally going out the door around the abortion clinic from Houston, Texas, from Austin, from Lubbock for an abortion because this was the nearest place that they could go.
We're seeing roughly about 4,000 abortions a year total. Almost every one of these cars here today of women coming in are from Texas.
We've really just been feeling overwhelmed and overrun by really what is this predatory abortion industry that is flocking now to this area where abortion still remains completely unrestricted and unregulated.
In New Mexico, CYFD has mandatory reporting. If someone comes in and their child has certain kinds of injuries, they look for signs of abuse. But when those same signs of abuse are present when someone, let's say, underage is being brought to an abortion clinic by someone not their parent, no questions are asked. There's no mandatory report. And so how many, especially now that we're a destination state to this degree, how many victims of sex trafficking are brought to New Mexico specifically from Texas, Arizona, Colorado for abortions that are being used as a form of birth control from someone who's trapped in the sex trade?
It's the shame, especially in a state where so many people have expressed their concerns about third trimester abortions and the lack of regulation or oversight of the abortion industry.
This isn't a scenario confined to the Southwest. It's playing out all over the country as abortion legislation continues to evolve. No matter the legal status of abortion in a given state, pregnant moms still need support.
So being here on the ground in New Mexico, it was so interesting to hear them name all the major Texas cities that women were coming from: Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, Lubbock, McAllen, right? And their message to all of us was clear. If you are in an abortion restricted community now, if abortion is illegal in your state, we really need to be there to serve these women before they're tempted to come across state lines. So they're going to maybe an abortion referral facility in a community in Texas, and they're hearing about how they can get across state lines. Maybe somebody is offering to pay for their travel. They're getting a gas gift card thrown at them. And at that point, you know, they're still thinking about it, but then maybe they haven't made a full commitment. We can be there with life-affirming resources to help them to resource their situation right at that moment before they're tempted to cross state lines and take the life of their child. It's so much easier. We've seen it on the ground firsthand that women are actually, because abortion is not readily available, you know, going ahead and getting on a mobile unit more readily, or going to a pregnancy resource center nearby, really interested in our services as they're still really weighing this decision out. But by the time that they've made that commitment to that drive, to that flight, and they actually end up in New Mexico, and I've met some of them on the sidewalk just yesterday, it is so much harder to get them to pause. It's that psychology of influence, commitment, and consistency. They've made a commitment to doing this by this time. It is so much harder to get your mind around the travel back home, what it's going to cost, the time and the energy and the effort to find a new solution to your crisis, right? And so again, we are hearing of turnarounds in abortion destination cities and states, but it is so much harder. People need you in abortion restricted communities to be on the ground, to be there for the women of your community at your local Planned Parenthood abortion referral facility, or to find a way to go to a high traffic area in your community to reach women before they are tempted to make a commitment to going across state lines and taking the life of their child. Okay. I'm going to stop it there just for time purposes. If you want to see the rest of the video, you can go on the Sidewalk Advocates for Life YouTube page. It's Abortion in Post-Roe America, right? The case study in New Mexico. And this kind of next segment covers how Hobbs, New Mexico, just across the border of West Texas, a little bit further up the border in New Mexico, almost became an abortion destination. And at the last moment, the building fell through. You'll hear from a pastor and a senator in New Mexico. It was actually absolutely a God thing. I don't usually get access to like Republican candidates for office or, you know, senators, but it was so providential when we took this journey, how we literally ran into some of these people and got them on video. So anyways, you'll have to go check that out if you want to see the rest of it. Okay, let me see if I can get us back here to, thank you. Oh, look at you. Yay.
It's gonna work.
Perfect. You got it. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, so a little summary here of abortion travel. So in 2024, over 150,000 women traveled out of state. I mean, we're talking about a 50% increase since the pandemic, right? And it can be tricky, right? Because we've got 50 individual battles, like how do we market? I mean, Planned Parenthood is a international brand, and they're able to get to women a little bit easier from a brand perspective than we are, you know, with some of our local solutions. But what we can do, you know, the good news is people are very joined to their community. And as we get news of what's available to women, and then we also create interstate networks to work across state lines, right? So my understanding, for example, in Fargo is that, of course, the abortion facility just went across the border in Minnesota, right? Is that Moorhead, right? You know, being able to work with that community, with that state, and being at the ready to help women to get back home to North Dakota and be received with life-affirming resources and services, for example. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of look at both sides of this. Abortion tourist or abortion destinations, pro-abortion states, and then you've got the pro-life or abortion restricted states, right? So what we've kind of, extracted from watching this for a little bit is that traveling moms need referrals to pregnancy help in their home community. When I've been on the ground meeting women in abortion destinations, it's a harder sell to say, well, go to the pregnancy center locally. This is not their community. This is not where they're going to, live and raise their baby prospectively, right? And so being able to say, I've got resources in Houston, Texas. I've got resources in Dallas, Texas. Should you, want to make a different decision today? That is really huge. Even though I absolutely pitch, we can take you to the women's care center nearby right away and then, get you set up back home, right? And so having some of these resources at our fingertips, even on the sidewalk or, again, on foot or whatever it might be, is very helpful. And then ahead of time, connecting with pregnancy centers. So one of the things that we're doing is we're calling pregnancy centers in pro-life states and saying, hey, if you get a call from a sidewalk advocate, for example, in New Mexico, hey, center in Houston, will you be ready to set up an appointment right away with that woman? Because she is in a valley of decision. Making an appointment 2 weeks out, that's a tougher turnaround. But if I say to her, you know what, you're going to go back home and the next morning you're going to be at that pregnancy center, they're going to be ready to receive you, that's a lot easier to get women to reconsider their decision. Again, in abortion-restricted states, we're connecting with pregnancy centers that border the state to establish a protocol for easy referrals. And we are still in Sidewalk Advocates for Life. I think when, Roe was overturned, those who were in pro-life states, we said to them, because remember the leak at the Supreme Court, I think it was in February, and then the decision was handed down in June. That would approximate 3-month period. We went to our sidewalk advocates in pro-life states and we said, get ready. Where are you going next? Because unexpected pregnancy is not going to disappear. Some people might change their behavior. That's real. The law does have that effect. But where's the next nearest place that women are going to be going to figure out where they can get an abortion? And so I think we only lost 2 teams in the overturning of Roe. Almost every one of our teams in pro-life states transitioned to the next nearest Planned Parenthood. And so we're at these centers. A lot of women are still walking in there to figure out where they can go. And then we're also having to think more creatively in this landscape, because what a lot of people don't realize is that, again, it was the Biden administration that relaxed an FDA rule on the 2-pill chemical abortion regimen. And they said, well, now it can go to your mailbox. You don't even need an in-person visit. Before, women actually had to physically go to a center, and we were meeting them there, right? We were seeing them, a lot more of them at the centers. Well, now it's getting mailed to their mailbox, and I can't put a sidewalk advocate in front of every home in America, right? And so now we're having to think outside the box and look at like a church ambassador program, a campus ambassador program, right? Like, again, we need to be at the ready to meet women in this valley of decision before they're tempted to schedule an abortion or order it to their mailbox. So again, we have now some locations like Pensacola, Florida. They don't have an abortion or abortion referral center. That's a miracle, because that should be an abortion destination. But they prayed for years outside their facilities. They advocated for years outside their facilities. And the blessing is they're taking a mobile unit out to a high traffic area in their community, right? I'll talk more about that later too. Okay, so let's talk about chemical abortion. This is kind of the new, the frontier to conquer and to figure out. So now the lion's share of abortion is chemical abortion. And if you've ever talked to someone, I have friends, we even have women on our staff that went through a chemical abortion procedure years ago, brought that to Christ for healing and, cast that into the sea of forgiveness, right? And now they are advocates for life. They all say that this is just such a horrific thing to experience. And some of the women on our team have been through miscarriage even, and said this is worse than a miscarriage, right? So anyways, we've got skyrocketing abortions by pill. And it's interesting, if you go to an abortion facility, a lot of them, when you talk to them about what kind of abortion they're seeking, they don't say chemical abortion. They don't say, I'm taking 2 pills. They'll just say, I'm taking the abortion pill. I'm taking the abortion pill, right? So it's kind of the street term that you'll hear, even though it's at least a 2-pill regimen usually. Okay, so abortions by mail. As of December 2024, we've got 1/4 of abortions I mean, the procedure, the chemical abortion regimen is being delivered to people's mailboxes. And this is traumatic, right? Because a woman is literally facilitating an abortion regimen in her bathroom. And this is as graphic as I'm going to get, but we have women that are calling the Support After Abortion hotline, a post-abortion healing hotline that's run by wonderful Christians, you know, and they're saying, I see my baby in the toilet and I don't know what to do. And what do I do? What do I do next? And they're having to just walk them through this traumatic thing that the abortion industry lied to them about what they'd see and what they'd experience, right? The tough part is we've got 22 states that have shield laws which protect them in litigation, right? So like our state attorney general tried to sue, I think, a provider in Delaware who mailed them across state lines, but it's hard because there's protection in their state, even though there's now other legal mechanisms we're looking at, like Texas is suing a provider civilly right now. Actually, maybe that's the Delaware case. It might have been a New York case where that didn't hold. But half of the telehealth abortions in 2024 were made possible by these shield laws. And so we're, again, having to think outside the box legally. Dangers of the abortion pill, we've got nearly 1 in 9 women that are experiencing adverse effects. The woman that I met on the sidewalk in Boulder, Colorado, could not get her to turn around. You know, I mean, she had tears streaming down her face, but boyfriend was running the show, right? He's like, I play drums, I play in a band, I can't handle a baby right now. And, you know, we're telling him, look, put your little one on your lap and you're going to teach him drums. And it's going to, you know, we're trying to give them a vision of how it's possible, but just such a tough case. And she was in foster care and struggling. And so anyways, I just warned her. I said, honey, if you go through this, like most of the women we talk to, they end up in the emergency room. I want you to protect yourself, protect your baby. Who cares what he says, right? And unfortunately, she did go through with it. And she called me and said, I just went to the emergency room in Houston because of a complication. And then she let me know a couple days later, she went back to the emergency room. She went twice to the emergency room. I mean, I hated being right, you know, so tough. But it was the Ethics and Public Policy Center that recently looked at all the data because, you know, the pro-abortion side, they're not going to tell you that women are experiencing this. But 75% of emergency visits within 30 days of using these drugs are coded as severe or critical. If this were any other drug on the market, the FDA would have pulled it. Absolutely unbelievable that abortion is kind of enshrined as this supra right, that people get to partake of, you know, to heck with the consequences. At least we have choice, right? That's what really what the other side is saying. All right, now, every pro-lifer needs to know this. If you are pro-life, you need to know this. There's something called abortion pill reversal. It is sponsored by Heartbeat International, the largest pregnancy center system in the country, I think really the world. And they have a nurse hotline. You can call this hotline and say, I'd like to reverse the abortion pill. So again, 2-pill chemical abortion regimen. The first pill blocks progesterone, which is the pregnancy hormone that sustains the pregnancy, that feeds the baby. And it's the second pill that expels. If she's taken the first pill, we can prospectively reverse that through abortion pill reversal. So she'll call the hotline. There's providers all over the United States, pro-life doctors, pro-life OB-GYNs, internists. I think some general practitioners are in on this, right? Nurse practitioners, and they can prescribe progesterone, and we can get her on that to replace what was stolen from her body. Now, the other side will say, oh, this is junk science. And, you know, Planned Parenthood, we've heard, has told women, oh, you know, it's going to lead to birth defects if you don't, you know, go through the rest of the regimen or whatever. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. This is a naturally occurring hormone that we're just replacing in the woman's body. And so I want to say there's been over 4,000 babies saved through the abortion pill reversal regimen. In our ministry alone, we've helped at least probably about a couple dozen now, but at least a dozen reverse successfully. So this is a great blessing. I think it's literally abortionpillreversal.com. So look it up when you get a chance. Optionline.org is the other website that I want every pro-lifer to know. It's also run by Heartbeat International. You can go on there, enter a zip code or a city, you know, state, whatever, and it'll show you your next nearest life-affirming pregnancy resource center. But what we're encouraging pregnancy centers, pregnancy care centers in, all of our communities, they outnumber abortion facilities more than 4 to 1. We want them to kind of position themselves think a little bit more like a competitor. We're trying to win her business, right? She's looking at this very transactionally. And so really, when we get into that mindset, we're kind of better meeting her where she is, trying to position ourselves again as the solution that will save her from regret and turmoil, that will help her, right, reconcile present with future self, and showing her how it's possible to be a mom and still, live her dreams, right? And it doesn't mean that there won't be challenges in that path. There's challenges with any path, right? But this is the path that most leads to peace. The tough part is, again, in any community, we're still dealing with the big brand of Planned Parenthood. People recognize Planned Parenthood so readily. 83% of adults. I mean, that's stunning. You have to give it to them. Like, with their millions of dollars of marketing, they've done a good job trying to paint Planned Parenthood as the solution for women, right? So again, we've got some work to do sometimes in our local communities. Now, from the sidewalk, we see more saves or turnarounds. You'll hear this kind of lingo if you're in the pro-life movement, right? When services at a pregnancy care center are free, immediate, and visible. We tell our pregnancy care centers, if you can treat this, like if we're walking in with a woman, if you can treat it almost like the emergency room, that's better, because she just had an appointment at Planned Parenthood. They're ready to take the life of her child, or they're ready to set up the appointment, right? So we've got to be able to triage her situation as soon as possible. We also encourage pregnancy care centers to be open. Like if I'm out on the sidewalk and I'm telling a woman about the pregnancy center and how wonderful it is, and then they're closed or they're not open for another hour or two, that can be tough. And sometimes we've had to say, we'll meet you on Monday at 10 a.m. And it's like 50% success rate as far as whether or not she's going to show up. The other thing is a free pregnancy test and ultrasound or sonogram. So if we can get a woman in front of an ultrasound, like about 9 out of 10 will choose life. I mean, literally, you walk through the doors of a Planned Parenthood, they say 97.1% of all pregnant women who darken the doors of a Planned Parenthood get an abortion, like almost 100%. I mean, talk about sales pitch, right? But if we can get her into a pregnancy care center, it almost flips. That's amazing. And again, not a lot of hoops to jump through to get help. And we're really encouraging pregnancy care centers to have a more kind of neutral, woman-oriented vibe. We're not marketing to baby. We're not marketing even to the pro-life movement. We're marketing to a woman in crisis that may or may not have faith. And so, again, we want to be truthful about who we are, but are we a welcoming, neutral, sometimes people go out to the sidewalk and they wear a t-shirt that says abortion is murder, and it's like, I'm in crisis. I'm actually considering this. You just called me a murderer. I don't know if I want to talk to you, right? I mean, we kind of need to think about some of these things. But if I look like me, if I'm just dressed like this and I have a big smile and literature and resources in my hand, game on. Like, I might actually win a life-affirming conversation, right? So again, something to think about. Okay, right brain research. When we're speaking with a woman who's considering abortion, what the research shows, and actually let me kind of back up. Right brain research is a series of research studies commissioned by the Vitae Foundation over the course of a few decades. And what they did is they talked to women who had considered abortion, may have even been considering abortion, right? And they studied the best message to a woman considering abortion. And it's kind of framed out this way. You and I, as people of faith and conscience, a lot of times, especially in politics, right, we're in that left brain logical mode. We're saying a baby that has a heartbeat and brain waves and is obviously of the human species in the womb, it's a baby, so therefore we shouldn't kill it. Period, end of story, right? But a woman in crisis mode, a woman in self-preservation mode has, she's got kind of her viewpoint inverted because she's in crisis. She's just thinking, I got to get out of this situation, right? Pushing baby to the recesses of her mind, pushing God even further away. And so what the research shows is that if we approach her first to talk about her situation, what she's going through, how these paths will either help or harm her first, then what happens is her heart is more open to hearing about baby and even God. So we've got to meet her in that crisis. And think about this. This is biblical, right? Christ came to meet us where we were. He was God. And he came to meet us in the human experience. And he didn't say, you have to come to me and see things from my view. We couldn't do that, right? He came to meet us where we were, and he went in through our lens and literally loved us into transformation, right? And so it makes a lot of sense that if we're his hands and feet, why wouldn't we do the same? Meeting a woman where she is. And it doesn't mean we leave behind what we know to be true about abortion. It just means that we use language that she can understand and support that she can understand in that valley of decision, right? And so again, we teach this in the training. If you go through a Sidewalk Advocates for Life training, it's about 4.5 hours of content of training. And we teach something called Mom, Baby, God, that obviously God comes first. A mother puts her child before herself. So the natural or right order is God, baby, mom. But a woman in crisis mode, a woman in self-preservation mode has all of that inverted because she's in crisis. It's like she's got her leg stuck in a trap and she just wants to chew it off and run, right? And so taking into account all of these things, we teach Sidewalk Advocates to start with mom first. And then, oh, by the way, how far along are you? Oh, you're 8 weeks. Did you know your little one is sucking his or her thumb and doing backflips in your womb, right? And brain waves and a heartbeat. Boy or girl, but you won't find out for a few more weeks when we can see everything, right? And so we're painting this picture of life. By the way, do you have a faith? Do you pray? And so then we plant seeds for faith. We tell pro-lifers, be careful when you go to the sidewalk or even when you're in a pregnancy care center, understanding that we're not counseling a baby, right? If we're counseling a baby, the baby would say, I don't want to die. But we're reaching the heart of a mother. She's the one making the decision. If we don't reach her heart, then abortion doesn't end in that moment and a life isn't saved. And so you can still have your pro-life convictions, but meet your audience where they are, right? Makes sense. Okay, and then a modern strategy is, again, especially if you don't have a facility in your backyard where people are going, you can go mobile. We've got a lot of pregnancy care centers that go to a high traffic area and they are offering free pregnancy tests and sonograms. And there's a lot of organizations now that work with pregnancy centers and other entities to get a mobile unit. I believe there's even some Right to Life groups that do this, right? And so you can call them and begin kind of the funding journey to get one of these pregnancy centers on wheels in your community. All right, these were some of our sidewalk advocates who hit the ground right outside of the Democratic National Convention. So when all that was going on during election time, remember that they were handing out free abortions and free vasectomies, courtesy of Planned Parenthood. So we partnered with a mobile unit and we went out there and offered them life-affirming resources. So this is kind of, again, you can see the neutral, welcoming face, right? We're not like, Jesus is condemning you, right? We're people who I believe that we would want to talk to if we were in crisis. And so these are just kind of some of the ways that we're joining hands with the pregnancy help movement from the sidewalk. Again, you know, we exist because we work in partnership. On the sidewalk, we're the gateway to the life-affirming resources in our community. And all of us as sidewalk advocates, these are really great resources to have. You know, if somebody came to you and said, I'm suffering after abortion, do you know where to point them in your community? Do you know your pregnancy care center? Do you know a couple of these national websites like optionline.org and Abortion Pill Reversal? These are really good things to have in your back pocket. All right, and then this is kind of how we uniquely serve people. Pro-life communities will come to us. They say, we want sidewalk training. We want to establish a team in front of one of our facilities or out in a high traffic area. And so we've got a national reputation for being peaceful, prayerful, loving, law-abiding. So we've got that ready-made for people. And we see ourselves as crisis intervention on the sidewalk, right? We do not exist in a vacuum. We believe we want to be that sales team for life on the sidewalk, referring to our pregnancy care centers. When we meet a woman on the sidewalk, and this is really for any of us, because again, we are all sidewalk advocates today, right? We want to understand why a woman is considering abortion and look to fill that need in a life-affirming manner. So if she says, I can't afford this, then we can say, well, our women's care center can help with rent, groceries, a place to live. Of course, I'm not just going to rattle that off, right? I'm going to hear her and really what she's going through, and then suggest that, you know, hey, I'll go there with you and let's figure this out together, and you're not alone, right? And then at a Planned Parenthood where they're doing other things like breast exam, well, woman exam, et cetera, well, some of these, you know, services are not morally problematic. We want women to get their well woman exam, but they're getting it at an abortion facility or joined to the abortion industry. And so our sidewalk advocates are pulling thousands upon thousands of dollars away from the abortion industry by saying, Hey, do you know Dr. Jones down the street does them for $25 cheaper? Or the Pregnancy Care Center has some of these services. Women's Center, we'd love to be there for you. And so, again, we're getting people to think about where their money is going as well. So again, this is who we are on the sidewalk. I won't read all of this to you. I kind of want to wrap up here soon so that we can take a couple of questions. But the biggest thing for us in our ministry is, again, being the hands and feet of Jesus. And so all of our people sign a pledge of integrity saying that they're not going to, linebacker traffic or be ugly to abortion workers or whatever it might be. We recognize there is very real and justified righteous anger against abortion. But when we go to the abortion facility, recognize that we're meeting people in crisis. And so really approaching them the way that Jesus approached the woman at the well, right? And letting them know of the opportunity for abundant life, to change course and to receive his abundant life. And so again, as we've stood up and shown up and come to these dark places, the Lord has saved nearly 26,000 babies from abortion. We've even helped 107 abortion workers leave the business with the help and witness of a sidewalk advocate. We refer to former Planned Parenthood Director Abby Johnson's abortion worker ministry, and that's kind of like the healing program for workers who have worked in the industry. They've seen a lot of hard stuff. And then you help enough women, you help enough workers, and then it's hard for abortion facilities to stay open, right? And so anyways, this is some of the fruit. Melissa on our national team met Kiera on the sidewalk in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and she was so moved by what Jesus did in her life, she named her son Kingdom. And Aunt Melissa was there to cut the cord because Dad had left them. And she's been in Kingdom's life for a few years now, all these years. So anyways, you can find us on social media. We also have a conference in the fall if you want to come to the great state of Texas. We're a little bit warmer, just FYI. So anyways, okay, with that, I think I've got maybe 4 minutes for a couple questions. So thanks.
Yes, first of all, I wanted to say thank you. It's very informative what you're saying and very important ministry. So anyways, but I want to ask you about geofencing. Have you heard of geofencing, where you target ads towards women around like abortion facilities? Can we target like more pro-life ads toward them?
That's awesome that you said that. I know that there's a lot of our colleagues that are experimenting with some of that. To be fair, I don't know all of the challenges that they've run into with that. This is definitely like, it's like a TBA, right, to be announced, but know that behind the scenes we're having discussions about that. So again, the idea would be that a woman would come to the abortion facility and she would suddenly have ads, right, about going somewhere else or getting connected with the pregnancy care center. There's even some of our sidewalk advocates, I guess, I will confess I'm an Android girl, I'm not an Apple girl, but I hear that you can do these Apple drop thing. Oh, howdy, sorry about that. Okay, you can do these Apple drop things, right, that I guess you can share something with people who are, I'm learning this, again, not an Apple girl, but some of our sidewalk advocates have played with ideas like that too. So I'm sorry I don't have more information, but know that this is being discussed right now in the movement. So, yeah. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry, y'all. My phone is blowing up. Okay.
Hi. I was wondering, so I know you talked about the pregnancy centers a lot. Something I've heard in the past is like the argument of like sometimes they're not safe, they're unsanitary, kind of that like making people afraid to go to these things because like what if it's not safe? How do you offer them as safe when the woman's coming and she's afraid?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Especially with Planned Parenthood, like having the greater advertising and
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. So like Planned Parenthood and the abortion lobby, they love to say things like, oh, don't go to those fake clinics, right? If you go to their website, I love to go spy on the other side for, go buzz around, see what they're saying. It's good. It's the biblical thing, right? So anyways, the Lord sends spies out into the land, right? So, but when you go on their website, a lot of times they'll say, oh, stay away from pregnancy care centers, otherwise known as, they'll enumerate a lot of the things that we in the movement call these centers. This is why it's so important that we go visit them ahead of time. Like if you all have not visited your local pregnancy care center, maybe that's a great trip for the pro-life club, right? Some of you go in waves and different groups and getting to know their services and seeing it for yourself, because it's hard for me to sell on the sidewalk somewhere I haven't been, or at least that I don't know a lot about. And so when I'm out on the sidewalk and say, I've been there or I've heard amazing things, I will tell you that all across the country, 230 sidewalk teams, right? We all refer to at least one pregnancy help organization. And every single one we work with is clean and amazing and loving people. And yeah, just like in any industry, you might hear something weird here and there, or somebody can tighten up their business model or the way that they look or whatever it is. There's one pregnancy care center, I won't say, somewhere in the country where it was just decked out with so much religious stuff. And that's awesome. Like, I love that. I want to see a picture of the Blessed Mother, right? But a woman who doesn't know Jesus and, is coming in there, and, oh, great, I just walked into a room of religious zealots, right? That's what the other side's telling her. And so when we have more of a neutral waiting room, and then, we bring up faith at the right time, in a spirit of discernment, like, we can get a lot further. And so anyways, I'll just say, I work with Heartbeat International, CareNet Pregnancy Centers, 2 largest pregnancy center systems in the country, in the world now. And they've got just such a beautiful standard of affiliation. Like if a center wants to be trained by them, we almost always are working with Heartbeat and CareNet. Most centers now are affiliated with one or the other. There's even a couple other wonderful programs too. But so go there and see what they have, and then you can actually speak to it, right? And celebrate them, and go to their banquet and be in the audience and cheer for them. Even if you can only give $10, do it, These centers are really on the front lines too. So, yeah.
Great. All right, thank you everyone for coming. Thanks Lauren for being here. Give her a hand. Lauren and myself will be at the Crow's Nest afterwards. If anyone wants to join us or just say hi, please feel free. Thank you.
System off, right?
Yeah.